All right, so something a little different today. So this is a completely new experience for us. So this is what is kind of cool about these things. You don't have a key, you have this credit card, and this allows you to lock it and unlock it. It gives you instructions on the back. That's the door right here. So apparently you just tap it down here, and then you should be able to put this into drive right here, and now it should. Okay, so at this point I do a voiceover because I cannot turn the music off. I don't know how to turn it off, and I don't want it to demonetize my channel. So we're guiding it in. You see how the car actually guides it, and I'm using as a visual, but the car kind of tells you if you're gonna hit something. Down here. You want a Tesla, you know about this. But that's how you turn it off. So now we can actually see what's going on. This is cool. It's showing basically the radar around you here and showing you what is going on. I just changed it, but we have a better radar. We have George over here. He's making sure that we're level on the lift, but the car is still kind of giving us an idea over here. That's pretty cool. You see these pieces right here? That's the lift arms that he is moving to give us an idea of how far out we need to be to make sure it's even on the lift. So if you've never seen inside one of these before, very, very plain and clean. There's no additional gauges apart from the big large screen right here. This is obviously your shifter to go from reverse, neutral, drive, and that's pretty much it. Everything else is storage. Everything else is really, really clean. Only switches out here are window switches, and looks like door locks. Same on this side, you've got the window switches for all 4 windows and what looks like a door lock. That's it. Everything else is through this screen. You got some rollables right here, which are probably so you can navigate through different areas of this, but that's pretty much it. There's nothing really around. You see as this moves, it's showing you George move around. It's got the radar all the way around the car, and it's picking up something back here behind the car. So we have it lined up on the lift. First thing we're going to do is measure it to get it before. He wants to drop it about 1 inch, which I think would look pretty good on this, just to get a little tire gap reduced there. So we're going to write all this down, that way we know where we're starting, then we can have a baseline. But this gap here, I mean 1 inch, is about this much. So we're basically going to bring this down to, this is the suspension he's putting on it. This is KW. So we just opened it and found out there's no rear springs. So the customer is going home to get the springs so that we can obviously do this. But this, I don't know how many systems are available for the Tesla. So one of the first things you notice on this Tesla is we're not going to be building a titanium exhaust on this car. So let's give you a quick walk around. This is the first time we've seen this underneath, so we figured we'd kind of show it to you, but everything is sealed and flat. It's kind of like a race car. A lot of this is for aerodynamics. It's also for noise. If you don't have anything under the car that can catch, it obviously makes the whole thing much, much quieter. If you ever look at cars, they tend to build almost like aero around their lower control arms for basically to direct the air around it. That's probably what these bumps are right here, is to push the air away from these. Whenever you can just seamlessly move the air, it makes for a quieter ride. A JDM turn down, that might be the way to go.
We're not doing it? You said if.
If.
We're not doing it?
We should do.
There's a bolt right there. I could drill a hole through there and just...
So he's already got some nice parts. These really go well with the car, the color of the car. That's a nice combination. So let's take the wheels off. Let's look around the suspension. We'll figure out what we have to take off the front coil. So one thing you should always look for on wheels is look to see if the lip is exposed, and it's pretty close on here. So if you're gonna sit it down, don't put it on the floor, don't scratch the customer's lip. What we typically do is use some high density foam to put the wheel on, and then it protects the inside of the wheel. All right, so the factory rear shock has the aluminum top hat right here. This is gonna have to come apart and attach right here. Change this over. This is obviously just the hardware that's gonna stay with it. So this is the adjuster right here. So when this is installed, you can't get to this. So I was trying to be nice, but you don't need it. This obviously covers a lot of this. It's not as large, but when this comes down, it keeps this area clean, so this should be sufficient. So the customer just dropped off the spring, so we are in good shape. We are going to be able to level this thing. It would be a little bit awkward with factory springs. So back shocks are already together. The parts are on there. This is your adjustment right here. You've got rebound, and then the compression down here. So typically I would put them in the middle, which we've got at 3 right now. I'm going to look on a couple of forums and see what people recommend. A lot of this is kind of like personal taste. It's whatever you're looking for. So this is the rear coil right here. So the new spring installed. This is your adjustment for height right here. Now they're calling for a 15mm spacer right here to give you a 1-inch drop. So we're going to go per the specs and then measure it and kind of verify it. But that's from this surface here to the surface, the widest gap here. So this is how it goes right here. This all goes back together, but it's pretty much like a Civic in the back. Very, very common setup. So he has a camber kit too. We'll put it all together and then kind of get an idea. And we're going to do it kind of by measuring it, getting it close. And then from there, it can go for an alignment, but we'll try and get as close as we can for him. All right, so the front ones are assembled. These come out, I mean, it's very similar to Honda stuff. I mean, I guess you can only do suspension so many ways. So this is obviously the first Tesla we've ever done, so everything is a learning lesson, but looks like a nice piece. I don't know if you saw that there. These are KWs, but they're Mountain Pass. Okay, so this must be something that they're offering through them.
It's probably a similar company to Unplugged, which I'm sure everyone's heard of.
Yeah, well, this obviously is a KW part that they already offer. So, you know, this is probably the only change that needs to be made to fit on this. I mean, this would essentially fit any vehicle if we was to change this part right here. Nice, very cool. All right, so the front is assembled, spring and shock is back together. It fits perfect. I mean, it's beautiful stuff. They did a really good job designing this. So now that is together, we've put like an initial measurement in there. The most accurate way is, of course, to put the wheels on, put it on the ground, bounce it a couple of times, and double check it, triple check it, and make sure it's good. So we're gonna put the camber kits on, which is right here. It goes this way around. So the idea is you can actually change the length of this, which pushes the top of the wheel out to get the camber correct. So we're not doing an alignment on this. We don't have an alignment machine, but either way, I always recommend you put your system together. You drive it for at least a week, make sure the height is where you want it, make sure it's settled. So we've got the camber kits installed. What we've done is put these bolts towards the backside so that we can access them when it's on the ground. Hopefully we can reach in from here behind the wheel and get to these and then adjust this buckle. We're gonna kind of eyeball it. We have a square that we're gonna use, measure it to the ground just to kind of get us in the ballpark. So we marked each tire where it comes off just in case it's got a TPMS program thing. If it's something you're not used to and you don't have the tool to get in and change it, this is a good idea. Always mark wheels the way they come off just to make sure. All right, let's get an idea how close we are here. So we went with the settings in the back the way they recommend, and we couldn't really find an accurate agreeable number in the front, so we just kind of went between the two numbers we saw. So this is always the best way. Put it down, let it relax, and then measure it, make sure it's happy. Actually not as far out in the front as I thought it would be. Okay, that's sick, because that's too good. Because it looks good there. And the back is too high.
The back's off.
Yeah, and that's by those numbers that were recommended. That was close to stock in the back. So it's removed from the lift now, and the front looks pretty much on the money. We're gonna measure it, of course, make sure. We wanna drop it an inch. We wear out, what, where are we, 29 3/4?
The bad thing is this looks good.
It does. What is it?
1 3/4 down from where it was.
Is it really?
But that looks good.
It does look good.
I almost don't want to go for a 3/4 inch.
Yeah, because the height looks right. Let's see what the back says.
Might be right because the front's lower than it's supposed to be.
Yeah, maybe, but it looks too high in the back.
Yeah, it went down just over 1/4.
Okay.
So that has to go down.
Well, maybe adjust the back first because it might affect the front.
The back only goes down so much, so.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe we should just put the back where it needs to be because we only had, between the wide surface we had 15 millimeters, but before it contacts we've probably only got about 5.
Yeah.
So that might be our limit. We'll drop the back where it needs to go and then match it to the front. So this is the measurement that we have right here. There we're saying 15 millimeters here. And as you see, we can't go much lower. We've only got that much thread. So I think what we're going to do is just bottom that out, put it as low as it will go, and then match it to the front. All right, so that is lowered as much as it's going to go. So without removing that ring, that adjusting ring, it's not getting any lower in the back. So we're going to measure it now, see where we're at, and then if we have to, match the front, but that's pretty much it. All right, so once we settle, it's actually come down a little bit. It's not quite as low as what we were expecting. That's the front, which I think we both kind of agree we like the height. This isn't going to come down quite as much as what we're expecting. So let's settle it. It's off the lift. We're going to bounce the suspension a little bit and then do another measure and see where we're at. So let's get measuring on the back now. So yeah, we're pretty much right on the money at 28 3/4. We were at 29 3/4. So let's verify the other side is the same. All right, a little bit more adjusting. We're on the money. We're within 1/8 now, which the car might settle more than that after driving it, but we're perfect in the back. That looks visually better now. So obviously max in the back got us 1 inch, and then once we matched it with the front, the back went up 1/4, and that's after bouncing it and adjusting it and trying to set it. Now realistically it needs to be driven for a few days. Like I said, the springs will settle. If it has any neoprene in there, that always takes a little bit to settle because it's kind of a hard material. But visually that one looks on the money right there. And that's adjusting and adjusting, going up and down and checking it and checking it. So now we put the rest of the lug nuts on, torque it. We'll just take it to the end of the driveway, up and down the bump there. So we're all good with this one. Now lower it. It looks more like a hatchback, which definitely was sportier. So it's exactly perfect front and back. We set the rear camber by basically using a square. It's pretty good now. The front is obviously doesn't really change at all, but the back needed that camber, and it's pretty much on the money now. All right, so we're going to set the suspension, just take it over a couple of bumps at the end of the driveway, make sure it's happy.
You've got to like stay on the gas pedal just a little bit.
Yeah, it's very, very strange feeling. I'm sure you get used to it, but just from a conventional automatic.
Yeah.
Like you'd always hold your foot on the brake, and you don't with this. You don't really need the brake for moving. All right, so we're going to take it, basically, the entrance to our driveway, there is like the drainage bumps. Usually just figure 8 across those a couple of times helps settle the car. All right, so after a quick drive, we double check the height, front and back, and it measures out perfect. So we can't go any lower in the back. It is maxed out, and we matched it in the front. And I think this height really suits the car. It definitely looks sportier. I think that is exactly what the customer is looking for. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video. Don't forget, hit the subscribe, hit the like, and we'll see you on the next video.